And we welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here on 1130 The Tiger. He's Rogers Hampton. I'm Patrick Netherton. We are pleased to have you with us. And as always, thrilled to welcome in one of our good friends. Rogers, I met this man back in 2005 in Hawaii, of all places. Yeah. He was doing South Florida basketball. I was doing Northwestern State basketball. We were both in the Hawaii tournament out there and got to meet, became friends, kept up with each other all this time. And now my man's getting ready to call a Super Bowl. He is the sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers radio network. He is TJ Rives. What's up, TJ?
It is always good to be with you, especially when we get ready for Super Bowl 55. But back to that first ever meeting between the Titans of broadcasting, Netherton and Rives, doing basketball in the middle of the night Eastern time in Hawaii. If you remember in the story, you got there on time with Northwestern State. I got there late because of Buccaneer football. I was delayed in getting out there until right before the games were being played. You had already hooked up with my broadcast partner, Jim Lighthall, and I think for the first 10 minutes, you thought he was me, and you thought, man, this dude is the coolest dude ever. And then he had to tell you, no, TJ's a real dolt. I mean, you're going to meet him when he gets here.
Yeah,
so,
well,
that's how the story goes.
I was super impressed with him. You, not so much, TJ. Let's be honest.
You're thinking this guy's great.
Yeah.
But then wait a minute, he's not TJ, Rogers. I mean, Rogers, I got to make fun of myself. Who else is going to make fun of me?
You came to the right show, brother.
Yeah, no doubt.
Exactly.
Mostly I just thought, how is this guy at South Florida? He should be the voice of someone much higher than this. This guy's tremendous. And then when you showed up, I was like, how is this guy the voice of South Florida? He should be doing D2 somewhere,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Hey,
no doubt about that. And then, of course, Northwestern State goes on to the NCAA tournament and wins a game.
Yeah.
And I did 10 years of the University of South Florida with that same rascal Seth Greenberg that you see on TV every week on ESPN. We never sniffed the NCAA tournament.
Wow.
So you have done something that I have not done. I bow to the mightiness of Patrick Netherton.
Well,
but I do not believe this is what you brought me on the airwaves here on the show today to talk about. I believe it has something to do with that little football game.
Well, right? I will say this. I've never done a Super Bowl, so, you're strapping in for that. Hey, let's walk back a little bit because, Tom Brady comes into the Buccaneers, and we talked to you back when that move was made, and the thought process was, I think there was a lot of hopeful, optimism that, hey, this could be the guy. But at that point, the defense hadn't made the leap from good to elite as it did throughout the season. We hadn't seen, Gronk was able to come back and, they go get AB, they get Antonio Brown. Walk me through sort of, as the season progressed, what was when was maybe the point where you looked at it and go, okay, this is a team that legitimately could make this jump from a really good team to a Super Bowl team?
So it's a good question, and obviously the season began not far from you in New Orleans in the Superdome, and there was some good, but then there was Tom Brady throwing a couple of interceptions, including a pick six, and it was so hilarious because we overreact. We just hyperdrive everything, especially negative, in the present day because of the internet and social media and instantaneous whatever. Tom Brady is a failure because they lost the first game in New Orleans. Well, if you've looked at the track record of the Buccaneers over the last 10 or 15 years with the Saints, they haven't won too many games in New Orleans. Not to say that Tom Brady is not the best quarterback that the Bucs have had, obviously, to go in there and try to play. So that wasn't a great litmus test. So then the team really put things together over the course of the next 7 games. They went 6-1. Tom Brady threw 18 touchdowns with only 1 interception. And you're rolling. You're 6-2. And you're thinking, okay, this looks, and that's the stretch where they beat Green Bay badly at home. That's been talked about a bunch. Beat the Vegas Raiders in Vegas easily in the second half. Now you're thinking you're onto something here to maybe win the division, have some home field. And then the swoon happened in November where the Saints embarrassed this team in the second meeting. And that's the right word, 31-0 in the first half. That swoon included a loss on Monday Night Football to the Rams, and then a loss to, oh, by the way, the Chiefs. At the end of November. It was after that and after the bye week they really began to get their act together for 2 or 3 reasons. One, they protected Tom Brady better down the stretch of the regular season. Antonio Brown got more comfortable with the offense and Tom Brady more comfortable with him. He scored 5 touchdowns in the last 4 games of the regular season. And really the defense, as you mentioned, began to come on at the end of the regular season and in the postseason. So it really gelled after that Chiefs loss and after the bye week, and this team has not lost since, including 3 road playoff wins.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you didn't get to this at this point, but there are a lot of signs pointing to the Buccaneers. One of those is the last 3 teams, all in the 2000s, that won 3 straight road games, 05 Steelers, 07 Giants, 2010 Packers, they all won 3 in a row on the road. They all won the Super Bowl. Just file that away, as the Bucs are the 4th one now to attempt it.
By the way, Brad Johnson would like a word. You over here talking about Tom Brady's the best quarterback that's ever suited up for the Buccaneers. Until Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl in the NFC, Brad Johnson is holding on to that title, sir. So
let me say this: love the bowl. I was in what was Jack Murphy Stadium, then Qualcomm Stadium, and now it's blown up, and they tore it down in January after all those years. 18 years ago, the Bull was the quarterback for the Buccaneers against the Oakland Raiders. It was mainly the Buc defense, but you're right. He has something right now at this moment that Tom Brady does not as a Buccaneer quarterback, and that's a Super Bowl ring. That could change now in about 76 hours. That could change, but you're right. We got to give some props to the Bull, and his son Max is now quarterbacking at LSU.
Yep.
How crazy is that?
It's wild.
That Brad Johnson played at Florida State. Brad Johnson is married to Mark Richt's sister, I believe, or his wife's sister, I think it is. They lived in Athens, Georgia for all these years, and Max is the quarterback at LSU. So yes, I have much love for the Johnson family and the Bull.
And he's he looked pretty good when he got that starting job late in the season. Hey, one thing I did want to ask, and we had Gene Deckerhoff, your play-by-play man, on, and the legend, and one of the things Gene mentioned was y'all were doing remote broadcasts for road games this year. What's the setup for the Super Bowl? Especially considering the fact that it's your home stadium.
Yeah, it's crazy that we did every single game at Raymond James Stadium, no preseason, but including the road games off TV and the road games even in the playoffs off TV. We did not travel. So 19 for 19 in Raymond James Stadium. You win the NFC title game, you get to be in the Super Bowl, and the Super Bowl is in the same stadium. So we will have worked all 20 games, including the Super Bowl, in the same stadium. I don't know that that's ever going to be matched for something like that. It's weird. It's crazy. So our setup, they will broadcast the game from the broadcast booth. I will be down in what's called the operational zone. That's where the radio and TV reporters have been all year, down in the front row of the stands, all the way around the stadium, all the way the ring around the sidelines and the end zone. That's where the CBS reporters, Tracy Wolfson and Evan Washburn and Jay Feely will be. That's where the Kansas City sideline reporter will be, the Westwood One sideline reporter, still photographers, other videographers will be in that ring. I will be down there among them, young man, on Sunday night, and it will be crazy. I know it's about a third capacity. It will not be nearly as electric as what it would typically be. It's unusual. It's bizarre, but I'm choosing to look at it as glass half full. We get ourselves a Super Bowl. There will be some fans and some atmosphere there, and it's for a championship, and it's got great storylines for this game. Let's hope we get a great game, and I think we will.
Are you avoiding haircuts between now and then?
Well, there's a couple of things. Yes, I get the humor with the Chiefs, and what a disaster on one moment of seriousness. If that had come to fruition, what would the NFL have done? Suddenly 10 or 15 of them, including Patrick Mahomes, are on the COVID list. Would they have delayed the game? Would they have told the Chiefs, like they told all these other teams in the regular season, you're playing with who you have? I don't know. But the joke that you boys love to set up the punchlines for, I don't really have enough on top anymore to get a good haircut these days. So I would not have been in jeopardy in that instance for the Chiefs.
Well, but that also, I think they haven't had to deal with it, but what a fascinating what if, right? Just the idea that a random barber, I didn't know teams, had one barber that a whole bunch of people went to. I figured everybody just had their own, they had their own guy, wherever city they were in. Just the idea that one guy could have potentially submarined a whole bunch of the team, including your leader in Patrick Mahomes, it would have been an abject disaster for the NFL to have something like that happen, especially when it's just something as innocuous as the guy giving the haircut.
Yep, and you're right. And what had begun to happen, and we've seen this in other sports, the NBA did this, for example, in the bubble. But again, everybody was being constantly COVID tested in the NBA bubble in Orlando, where teams would utilize their barber or their same barber to get haircuts. That was all part of the agreement and how they worked it out. And they actually built a barber shop for that kind of setting for the players to go and have. And a lot of the NFL teams, it's been kind of the same routine where the doctors, the cooks, the barber, it's all the same person and it's at the facility and they're all being COVID tested. And my understanding of this is somebody that had been doing this throughout the season, the barber we're talking about, and had been COVID tested. He just apparently, they didn't know that he had been positive until he had begun to do haircuts. Oh. And I believe this was last weekend. And man, it would have been a mess. They've averted the mess. We've got 3 more days to avert the mess and be able to play the game and have everything happen on time. Let's hope we can get there.
When do the Chiefs come in, by the way?
It's bizarre, but they're not here until Saturday evening. They're following their normal routine. They normally would be here in a Super Bowl week on Monday and would have done everything with Monday night and the opening night and the whole pomp and circumstance, but it's just not. It's not the same with the social distancing guidelines and how much they're restricting how many people can be where. The Chiefs are following their same routine. They will come in on Saturday evening, as every other NFL team basically did the night before, in terms of how do we best combat the possibility of COVID-19 from the airplane to the hotel, etc. And so they will not be here until 2 nights from now, the night before the game. So it's another crazy footnote in how they're having to play Super Bowl 55.
Talking to TJ Rives, sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers radio network. All right, you're a Tampa native. Obviously, the game's in town for y'all, but you've been to other Super Bowls in other in other cities and other venues. What's the city like? Because normally we're used to media party and every brand is throwing a party and there's artists, there's music everywhere you turn and parties being thrown left and right, and the fan experience where all the people can go through and challenge themselves with games and all of that. What's Tampa like in a COVID Super Bowl?
Only a little bit of it, to your question. It's a good question. I mean, there is some of it because the NFL experience is set up near downtown. I got the opportunity to be there with my wife and my kids last weekend. They've been having a few thousand people there a day to come through. They were doing it by reservation, and the reservations all filled up and basically sold out. So there is some partaking in that. The parties are a fraction. It's literally probably maybe an eighth or a tenth of what has gone on, and they have to practice social distancing guidelines, a lot of it outside. With whatever they're doing in the early evening, et cetera. So not the same, not a radio row like it would typically be with 100 radio stations crammed in there. I'm pretty sure when you guys probably covered it at some point with that radio row setting at one of these Super Bowls and around the Saints being there, et cetera, that, I mean, you have 100 different stations, local and national, that are there talking about the game. Now again, it's like an eighth of that, a tenth of that. Mainly Tampa and Kansas City stations that are here. I will say this, the town is fired up. The Buccaneer logo is the flag. The flags are everywhere around Raymond James Stadium, around downtown, even over by the beaches in St. Pete and Clearwater across Tampa Bay. The Bucs fans are fired up. It's just different. It is not going to be the mass of people coming in here the same way because, again, you've only got 22,000 tickets to get your hands on, but still there will be some atmosphere as Friday becomes Saturday and Saturday becomes Sunday.
It's interesting because this is the first time that a team has ever hosted the Super Bowl and played in it at the same time. And I know the NFL is going to make this a neutral site game, but have you heard, are there going to be any sort of special home things like at home games, firing the cannons from the ship or any of that stuff? Are you getting... Is Tampa going to get, the Bucs are going to get any sort of home cooking, or is this going to be a, quote unquote neutral site game for them?
So that's a good point. And there's been a lot of talk down here in the media and on the radio and among fans and on the internet about this. They do get to dress in the home locker room, but that is only because of the standard rotation from year to year that the NFC is the home team. Had this been last year or next year, the AFC team would have dressed in the Tampa Bay home locker room, even with the Bucs playing in the game. So because the Chiefs were the home team last year and dressed in the Dolphins' main locker room in Miami, now the Bucs got the chance to dress in their home locker room, which they're doing. The Bucs also got to pick the jerseys, and they picked the white jerseys that they wore the last two games in New Orleans and in Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, thoughts and prayers to all the Saints fans as the Bucs ended Drew Brees' career at the Superdome, but we carry on. So now, the other thing is the cannons. Everybody wants to know, are they going to fire the cannons? So the compromise is that will happen when the Bucs run out of the tunnel. For the pregame introduction, they'll fire the cannons then, and that's it. Until the game is over, when they would potentially fire them if the Buccaneers win, but not after scores, not when the team gets in the red zone like they customarily do when they fire the cannon 3 times when the team gets in the red zone. None of that will happen during the game because you're right. It's supposed to have the neutral feel. Some were suggesting just go ahead and fire it for both teams when they're in the red zone or when they score. But if you're the Chiefs, you don't care about the pirate ship firing cannons with whatever you're doing. That's advantage Buccaneers, and so the NFL just said we're not going to have it while the game is going on.
Are they going to make Deckerhoff not say it on the radio?
Right, he can't say fire the cannon.
He's not allowed to say fire the cannons,
except after the game is over with. There has been talk. I've seen the chatter, and I'm sure the authorities have seen the chatter, that some fans want to congregate somewhere outside the stadium and mimic the cannon fire if the Bucs score. But of course, you have a whole different safety concern, et cetera, that's going on.
Good luck getting within. Yeah, good luck getting within about 5 miles of that stadium during the game,
and not get arrested when you go to do it.
Hey, finally, I know we haven't talked a whole lot about the matchups. I mean, everybody's talking about it ad nauseum, but what do you look at as the keys? Is there a certain position you're looking at? Is there a certain unit on the field that you look at? What do you say ultimately? Do you think is okay if we focus on this? This could be the determining factor for who wins this game.
I think what it really comes down to, I've said this over and over again, we'll continue to say it till I'm purple maybe by Sunday night. If the Buccaneers are within arm's length, either tied or within a score, they're winning this game, especially if they get a stop. And in the case of the Green Bay game, they got 2 big stops in the fourth quarter of a game they were already winning. But in the New Orleans case, they were losing, they got the game tied, and then they got the takeaways. Right. 2 of them. They got 2 stops in that game. It's fantasy land again to think that Mahomes is not going to have a big play or 2. They're going to score points. It's not going to be, a situation where Kansas City scores 10 points or 13 points. They're going to probably get to 20, 24, maybe even 27 points. But I have every confidence the Buccaneers will do the same thing with the Chiefs defense and will put points on the board. This will come down to the fourth quarter and a critical Buccaneers stop or not of Mahomes and Kansas City, and I believe they are going to get that. And this is a team that has now taken the ball away, by the way, 5 times in the last 2 games, and also has registered 5 sacks in the previous game. So there's a lot of things trending up for the Buccaneers defense to get a key stop in the second half and help them win Super Bowl 55.
Well, I think regardless, it's going to be a fun game. It definitely will not be the Patriots-Rams where, it's not going to be 10-3 or whatever. I love the fact that these 2 quarterbacks are going at it. TJ, have a great call, man. Enjoy the hell out of it, and we look forward to catching up with you in the offseason, brother.
Always good to be with you, boys. Here we go with Super Bowl 55. Should be a lot of fun. We'll see what happens, and it could be an amazing night if the Buccaneers pull this off and Tom Brady pulls this off a year after leaving New England with his new team. How crazy a postscript for that if this happens Sunday. You guys be well.
See you. TJ Rives, sideline reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Radio Network.